Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video, man. I'm really liking what I'm seeing in these skies, man. 2 days in a row, the skies have been pretty. I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes it's just good to get outside and smell some fresh air. You ain't even really gotta have too much of a destination. Just walking around, man, it's definitely good, especially when the weather's nice. And not everybody has that, so I don't want to gloat, but that's what it is. Still been putting off calling the doctor. I know I need to. I just haven't done it. I know it's a hassle. You gotta. My thinking is, and this is probably silly, but because it takes about a month to schedule it, I'm like, if I put it off another day, it's not like I'm gonna see a doctor anytime before April any damn way. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So yeah, that's why I haven't called them today. I was talking to my buddy at the front desk. She said she has something she had to do, a root canal she's concerned about. I'm like, you're not alone, because I don't think I'm scared to go to the doctor, but I'm putting it off. It's one of those situations, maybe I'm not in touch with the idea that I'm afraid. I don't feel afraid. It's just that I keep putting it off either way, you know? But my doctor's been needing to see me, that's for sure. And I know that. So it is what it is, man. I'm just getting out here. I got a lot of stuff to purchase today as it pertains to food. And I think the turkey that I've been putting in my meals is probably going to have to go. I don't think that's working out. The other stuff that I have in there is excellent. A lot of steamed vegetables have been great, steamed everything, but I think it's the turkey at this point that's causing me trouble. It's always something I like in the meal that makes the meal taste good enough that ultimately my body says no. So that's a curse that I have to live through. Just as long as I want to eat something that tastes good, it ain't happening. But yeah, man. I've been pretty good outside of that. Just asking for God to watch over all of my loved ones as usual, praying for people and stuff like that. Trying to get as close to God as possible so He can give me the path forward for all the different things I got to do, as I always say. That's really the thought at this point. I find myself going to God more and more for the smaller things. Help me through this. Help me get the energy to do that. Especially since I haven't been feeling good. It's like, give me the energy to get up and do my sit-ups and my push-ups or whatever the heck I'm doing. So that's kind of what it is right now. I'm asking them to give me the energy to walk down the street and go to the grocery store, because I definitely feel like laying in bed. But, energy replenishes when you put in the effort. Drink water, put in the effort. If I lay down, and I say this every day, but if I lay down, all that's going to do is beget more desires to lay down. If I get up, it gets easier and easier to fight against that, for which is laziness or fatigue or what have you. So we're pushing that in this video once again. You've heard that a lot this week, but I think that's what it is. A lot of people are dealing with different health things, and I've been thinking about you guys. I think that's what the good that can come out of certain struggles is, being aware that other people are suffering the same struggles as you, or something worse, or something in the same ballpark. And we don't take health for granted. Health is wealth, and we consider that whether we're going through the worst of times or if it's a regular day, you know what I mean? Or you're feeling great. Health is wealth. And if we're all blessed enough to age, we will experience our bodies going in a different direction. So we need to enjoy our health so long as we have it, because it's not permanent. It's not permanent. Even if we take great care of ourselves, eventually we're going to live to see our body slow down if we're lucky enough. So that's what it is, man. You start seeing the aging process in yourself. I looked at the pictures from me from a couple years ago and seeing how much I've aged in this since I've been in North Hollywood alone, which is understandable. I'm 40 years old now, so it's not like I expect to look like I did when I was 30 forever, but you can really see it when you look at pictures of yourself. And it's a blessing and a curse. I think of myself right now and I look at pictures and I say, man, I may have looked younger, but I was significantly less of a good person, I guess you could say. I have a lot better qualities now that I've gone through certain difficulties that came with the times. And I look at myself, I was like, man, I was less disciplined back then. I think it's a word I would like to use. Significantly less disciplined back then. Couldn't live without things I couldn't live without, that type of thing. needed to have more than I necessarily feel I need to have now. Taking things for granted. I'm giving myself passes and blaming other people in certain situations for stuff that was my fault. Not seeing clearly in regards to how important fixing my own life was to the outcomes of circumstances around me. If I took care of my business, I wouldn't be so frustrated about certain stuff, because there wouldn't be certain stuff in my midst. If I were more busy at times when I was younger, I wouldn't have as much time to complain about certain things, because I'd be too busy to complain about them. Focusing on other people. Relationships, stuff like that. I'm focused on her. If I was focused on me, I wouldn't be worried about her. I have more time for her and she'd respect me more. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Or less time for her and she would respect me more is a better way to articulate the reality of what I was going through in the past. But I think I don't have to carry some of those problems into my future. And that's what it really comes down to. I don't find myself being that same person. Even though that person was younger, probably looked better in the outfit than I do today. The truth of the matter was, he was significantly less disciplined. He needed so much to keep him going. His relationship with God didn't have the requisite amount of fear attached to it to say, I'm not going to do certain things because I'm going to make God angry and I don't like what comes with that. Like, that stuff came with the times that I've gone through. That guy didn't know that you believing in God isn't going to protect you from consequences of doing things you ain't got no business doing. If anything, because you know God, he going to hit you harder because he expects more out of you. And he wants you to be the example to others that you need to be. I haven't had a mirror like this in a long time. Let me look in this thing, see how I look. Full body mirror has not been anywhere near me, with the exception of maybe when I go try something on. I don't ever get to see how I look. Don't like how those pants are laying. Who cares, man? We live with ourselves. That's really what it comes down to. You live with the changes in yourself. You live with the changes in your body. And as you grow, you go through what you go through. And while you put age on yourself, you also put wisdom on yourself and know-how on yourself and understanding on yourself. And it weighs against that for which matters so much in vanity. That's what I can tell all the young people. Older people may not see in the mirror what they used to see through on their bodies, but they also don't see in the mirror what they used to see in their eyes. Because a lot of times you value more as you get older, so it balances itself out. Just like a lot of us as young people value our looks more as young people. I value the understanding more as an older person. So the more understanding I get, the more I don't need my looks. The more wisdom I have, the more I realize the looks fade. And some people don't gain any wisdom as their looks fade. Some people don't gain much. Some people still doing the same stuff they were doing in their 20s in my age. You know what I mean? Still want to go hang out and drink and smoke and, be frivolous. And, a lot of grown men got responsibilities to children and they don't expect that. They don't respect that. So, you know what I mean? They just ain't taking care of their families. But they do want to hang out with people half their age doing stuff they have no business doing. Trying to keep up with times that are no longer their own. Surrounded by people who haven't had a chance to enjoy all this, you trying to hold on to it. It's just, there's a time and place for everything. And the more mature you get, the more you realize that some people are growing and others are not. Some people, they're at their age, but there's no wisdom behind their eyes, no more than just to say, I got better at doing the stuff I have no business doing. And that's not something I want to carry forward. So that's really where I'm at with it. I'm trying to get better as a human being, understanding that there are ways that I still carry as a person who's growing that I may not want to keep. And as just as some of those old ways are shaking off of me, so too are these that I don't need at this time going to come off from here if I'm so blessed to continue to live. And that's also what you appreciate, is that energy and stuff like that, as we already said, doesn't stay. Energy that you may take for granted today may not be with you tomorrow. For those of us who are so blessed to experience having a healthy body, a lot of people aren't born with that, so they can't see themselves taking it for granted. But those of us who were born pretty damn able and aren't missing anything or whatever, what have you, it's easy to take for granted that you have good health. You know, I think about LeVar Ball. I saw a picture of him this morning. An emergency procedure had to be taking place. Prayers out to him. You know, they had to amputate his left foot, if I'm not mistaken. LeVar Ball. Just saw that picture just now before I left the house, and it's like, these are things we take for granted. It's a man who used to play sports. It's a man who's used to being up and moving around. And while, you know, there are technologies to give him prosthetic legs and stuff like that to keep him going, truth of the matter is you can't replace something like that. For all the money we try to get, when we lose something like that, that can't be replaced. The stuff that God gives us, you know, you can't replace some of that stuff, man. While, you know, you could be a trillionaire and not be able to restore a leg, you know what I mean? So these are the type of things that I just want to kind of put into the air to say, you know, when we value money so much, or we value different things that can be replaced, I often forget that some things cannot. And as we live our lives the way that we do, it's so important that we give acknowledgement to the things that we can't replace, and thank God for those things as often as you can consider it, as often as necessary to remind oneself that those things can be lost and not replaced. And so that's what comes to mind there, man. Prayers out to the Ball family. They've been through a hell of a lot. Even though they've earned a lot, they've too been through a lot. And I think that's the balance of understanding. You know, a lot of times we look at people and we put so much value on what they have, and we don't care too much that what they've went through was very difficult or what have you, since we've gone through our own thing. And you look at a rich man, and you may only see the wealth, and you think everything that has to do with his life is just supposed to be cool because he's rich. You know, and that may not necessarily be the case. If you could hear their story, maybe you find out they've been through some things that maybe you are blessed to have not gone through. You know, maybe they got a path ahead that may not be so favorable. And you wanting what they have or being jealous of them, you don't know what comes with what, as I often say. So as I consider such things, I'm thankful for what I have. I welcome better. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit up here and act like I'm not welcoming better based on that. But I appreciate what I have, and I too appreciate the notion that others may have more but not necessarily be pleased. They may not be fulfilled in ways that maybe I am. You know what I mean? That's okay. That's okay. Hopefully they find that fulfillment too, you know? I can ask God for the fulfillment of my finances, and to the fulfillment of their hearts. Just the same. They don't have to be in need of more on my end and not care that they get what they need as well. It's just, I think capitalism tends to tell us that we need to not care about people just because they have a little more, or they shouldn't care about us because they have so much less. We have so much less, rather. It's not that. You can still care about somebody or want more for them just because of your situation, or, you know, it doesn't have to be what many believe it is in this world. I can look at a person who has a lot, see sadness in their eyes, and want better for them. Just like they can look at me and maybe want a little more from me, you know? It's okay to be that way. We don't have to hate one another and be indifferent to the sufferings of one another, one way or another. You know what I mean? I think that's the gap that needs to be bridged so that love can be in place, helping people relate to one another in circumstances where otherwise they're not expected to be or not taught to be, separating us by way of various different things that would otherwise bring us together if we just have a conversation or two. So yeah, man, that's what I'm trying to say. I think I have that inherently. You know, I see, when I see rich people or poor people, I don't really see too much difference. I see person first. And I'm really perplexed how people don't, but understand just the same that they don't. When people look at you, see what you're wearing, see what you have on, you know, see how your car is looking and what have you, see your pictures of your home, and suddenly it's almost like you have wings or a halo over your head or something. I don't see that. I genuinely do not see that. When I'm surrounded by a bunch of people, and this is the ignorance of myself, when I'm surrounded by a bunch of people, I don't think too often that I consider who is rich around me and who's not. And given the fact that I live in a place where a lot of times those two things mix, you see rich people down one block, you see poor people down another block, I just see human beings. I really don't see that stuff. Whatever that is that helps people detect these things, I'm kind of stupid in that area. I'm not that bright when it comes to stuff like that. And, that's just what it is. I think God has been good to me in that way. So a lot of times we've been so coursed into believing that culture is a definer, so we don't realize that culture is just that. It can change, it can be manipulated, it can be, it can evolve or deteriorate or what have you. And so it's to where certain things like cleanliness and good fragrance can often be the teller of what separates a lot of us. I mean, it's open, but a lot of those things have to do with practice, not just resources, but one's willingness and effort in those areas to take care of themselves and try to give off the best possible physical appearance. And so for me, it's like, unless you study what costs what, which requires effort that I don't put in, how much these shoes cost, what those shoes look like, what this emblem is on that specific brand that tells how much you should expect you have to pay for it. Like, that stuff requires homework that I don't do. You know what I mean? I really don't do this. And so for me, it's like I can't tell the difference between a rich man's jeans or a poor man's jeans, to be honest with you, because I don't think there's much of a difference. Maybe the cut might be a little different, but like the things that separate value in these ways, I don't really see it. So that leaves me in a position to walk past somebody who may be $50 million up and not really know it, unless they're wearing some type of jewelry or something, as to which I wonder if it's real any damn way. Because that's just the nature of what the reality has been in the era I've been in. So many people wearing fake jewelry and stuff. So for me, it's just like, man, there's no real indicator of who's wealthy. I've been around very wealthy people and couldn't tell the difference. Honest to God, I couldn't tell the difference. Unless they come in with a specific type of car or something, like I said, indicators that have to give off wealth. But if your belt is worth like $3,000, I'm probably not going to notice. If your shoes are worth like $700, your loafers, I'm probably not going to notice. It's just, and so that's what makes me different, and I think than a lot of people in the areas I grew up in, Hollywood. It's like, you could tell money, you could see money. He looks at money, he smells the money. I see a human being, bro. I promise I do. I promise I do. And I think that's the way the Lord wants me to be. He don't want me to think about people like that. Look at people like that. Oh, they're so wealthy because they have this, that. He dissolved a lot of those things in my head so that I can look at the people the way that I believe He wants me to, which is all under God. Anything that they have can either be magnified with more of it or given more of it or stripped away. Just like I look at myself in the mirror. They put on their pants leg, one leg at a time. They better shower or they're going to stink, that kind of thing. They better brush their teeth or they're going to have cavities and bad breath, like every human being. Every human being. The 1%ers all the way down to the homeless guys. Every human being is just given the body they're given. If their leg get cut off, they don't get another one. You understand what I'm saying? They lose their life, it's over. They're not special. They're only special if they are special on the inside, if they treat people a certain way that allows for them to be seen as appreciated. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. A lot of people have no idea how to be appreciated. They know every instance of how to make people fear them, hate them, respect them as it pertains to their money and in the circles for which money is valued. But they don't know how to have appreciation. They don't know how to be loved. They don't know how to inspire devotion or loyalty. They know how to identify when it hasn't been provided to them, but they don't often, a lot of times in some cases, see any fruit in providing any. They're not loyal people, but they demand loyalty. They're not honorable people, but they want to be treated with respect and honor. You know, and the world knows how to teach itself how to be itself, but they don't know how to teach you how to be greater. That's the problem. They don't know how to identify greatness properly. They tell you money's greatness, image is greatness, and all these different things that are not. It's not great. You want love, you want devotion, inspire it by forgiveness, unselfishness. Those two things will make people run through a wall for you. Sacrifice so that others can be well. That inspires devotion. If you're not willing to give, don't expect to get. If you're only about yourself and you stepping on everybody, please expect to be turned on. And when you go out your house and you look to figure out how you can manipulate people and figure out how to make yourself great and then step on everybody else, taking people's whatever they have, or, you know what I mean? Please expect people to be celebrating when you fall. I mean, it's just, and it's just those same people that swear they want devotion, that swear they deserve good people or whatever the hell. They don't deserve none of those things because they're not any of those things. And that's what ends up hurting them. Is not understanding that the correlation between you being good and you receiving good go hand in hand. And the effort that you put into your life, the effort that you put into being better, will ultimately bring about the example of how to treat you and how to treat the people you care the most about. And your indifference will inspire indifference. That's really what it is. And so I think that the world has told us the opposite. You step up on top of people, and when you do, you don't look down at them. Or rather, you do look down upon them, but you don't look down in the sense of any regret for what you've done to others. That's what the world teaches you. Everybody's going to get their own. Every man for himself. Dog eat dog. Worker don't eat. You know, the other type of, villainous energy that ultimately makes us bad people each and every time we engage in it. Our country's built upon it, but it won't sustain because of it. And that's what I know. It won't sustain because that is exactly how we operate. And it doesn't bring about good energy, nor devotion, nor true respect, appreciation. Everything's built on leverage, and leverage can sway with the courage of a man who says F all that, literally. Your leverage is only held together by those who care to keep it together. Once they decide to not honor that leverage, or to call your bluff, so to speak, or to not care that you have something over their head, as we talked about yesterday. Once people don't really care what happens to them so long as they step on you in regards to whatever you're doing, then you understand that your leverage don't hold a whole lot of weight. It has to be respected based on the fear of what it is you can use against them. If I stop caring about what you can use against me and be willing to sacrifice what it is that ultimately comes with whatever you have staying in your pocket instead of being revealed to everybody else, then that's leverage is out the window. And now it's about my mercy upon you, on whether or not I'm going to honor the fact that this could really hurt you, or honor the fact that this could really destroy what you got going on with what it is that you think you hold over my head. And if you're holding something over my head, how much mercy do you think I'm going to give you? That's why the leverage game is so fickle, because it counts on a certain stability within the minds of those who it's held over. Stability. It requires a person to be sane, fearful, self-serving, concerned with things. It's like a lot of that stuff you cannot count on. Some people lose their minds every day. You can't count on that stuff. People lose their minds every hour. You can't count on that stuff. It's just like I say about crossing the street. You can trust the lights are going to tell you when it's safe to go, but many a man has ran a light. Drunk drivers come around all the time. If you don't look both ways and use your own ability to pay attention and your own free thought to protect yourself, then there's always going to be an opportunity for something to go wrong. And I saw something today online that I thought really aligned with that. It was a young man who was at some type of gaming place, and he was getting ready to punch one of those punch indicator thingies where you sock it and it tells you how much, power you send into it. And if you send it to a certain point, you get a prize type thing. He was getting ready to sock it. And this lady walked by, this young girl, she had to be no older than 17, walked right in the path of him right as he was about to punch. Now, he was able to hold his punch because of his awareness. But she didn't have any association with the threats around her at all. She was literally walking through one of those things that somebody was actually getting ready to punch it. And it's like, you have to understand what's going on around you and not trust that the world is going to be safe just because you're in it. Like, literally, there's a lot of people out here who live that way. They believe the world is safe just because they're in it. Nothing's going to happen to me ever. I just walk wherever I want to walk. I don't have to pay attention to what's going on around me. I don't have to have any awareness of my surroundings, because there are no such things as threats in my life. And those be the people that end up being the worst victims of a lot of such situations, because they don't think for themselves at all. They don't look around and survey the world around them. They're just walking, and that makes them not only difficult to deal with as it pertains to protecting themselves, but that makes them a danger to people around them as well. And so if you allow that same trust to align with what you have as it pertains to your leverage over somebody else, you're just assuming they're not going to decide to say F all that. F life entirely. And before I go, let me call your bluff type energy. You don't know how many people are going to think that way, especially when they've had something held over their head for a long period of time. Prayers out to this family of the young girl who killed herself a couple of days ago. I heard about her story too. She was being bullied in class. She was of Spanish descent, and of course, with everything going on in this country, at the school, the classmates around her were continuously bullying her about calling ICE on her family, and so she killed herself. She completely gave up. Like, you making fun of her, you didn't know how close she was to the edge. You don't know how likely she is to harm herself. That's going to be on the heads of everybody who made fun of her, man. Everybody who ever bullied that girl about this particular thing, they understand that they drove her to a space from which she killed herself. Now, some people don't care about stuff like that. Some people just say, oh, well, she was weak. That's as people like to say, natural selection, this, that, and the third. The reality is, without you doing that, she doesn't choose this. She don't choose that. It's your actions that help that process along. She's still here if you leave her alone. You see what I'm saying? And so, while we can say people are weak and you got to have thicker skin, this, that, and the third, too, do people have to understand that some people don't. So if you're going to go forward with bullying people and they do something, a lot of it has to do with you and your choice to bully them. A lot of it has to do with you and your indifference to them. So if they go off and do something insane like harm themselves or others, yes, they are culpable for their own actions, but too, are you culpable for pushing them to the edge? And so that's what I would teach my child if I had children. And don't think for 1 second that what you say and what you do that you find funny at the expense of other people is harmless. Don't think for 1 second that you holding something over somebody's head and blackmailing them is going to yield you results that you're expecting. Because they may just say F it all and blow the whole spot up. They may not be so fearful of what happens when they're exposed. Maybe they call your bluff. Maybe they tell you to show it off. Whatever you got over my head, show it off. Then I'm going to do what it is that you're more afraid of me doing. So in a lot of cases, that's exactly what it is. It's two people terrified. One person terrified of something being exposed. The other person terrified of not being able to utilize the leverage that they have. And all that goes with that. And so that's what I would tell my son or daughter. Like, don't blackmail nobody, man. Don't don't look at that as a surefire bet. Don't build your house on that, like a lot of people do. Build something that they can't afford to lose on the back of something that can't be considered stable if not for the presence of someone else being fearful enough to keep it up. Don't expect them to just stand still and let you build your house on their back. They may stand up and say, do whatever you're going to do. I ain't having none of that. And that ends up tearing down your house and everything else you're trying to build. And your credibility as somebody who knows how to build something stable and all the different things that come with that as well. Decision making, that's what we're talking about, is decision making. And not counting on people to just be sane. Not counting on people to be able to restrain themselves in circumstances. Not counting on somebody to be able to hold the punch back if you're going to walk in the line of that punching. If you're going to walk in the line of fire, don't expect for them to be able to just miss you. They're not going to miss you. They're going to hit you. Maybe they feel sorry about it. Maybe they don't. But you're getting hit. And so that's what I would tell my kid. Like, so many people want to use this stuff, especially in the higher spaces where there's a lot of power involved. People want to hold things over people's heads. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You may see it work for a time, but in the end, the pressure of having something held over your head may just cause you to lose your mind. And in losing your mind, you just lose all desire to protect yourself from whatever. I recall a situation like that when I was a kid. I don't remember what it was, but I think it was at the children's club. Some teacher was holding something over my head. I had said something. I was like 7 or 8 years old. I probably said a bad word or something. And I guess she was going to use that as a say, she was going to tell my mother I did something. I don't remember if I broke something in this place or not. I don't remember what it was. But she called herself going to hold it over my head to get me to whatever. I don't remember what it was. Maybe just behave or something. You're going to do exactly what I tell you to do. I'm going to tell your mommy this. And one day she's reminded me that she held something over my head. She was telling me, like, if you don't do this, I'm going to tell her that. And I went home that day and I told my mom that. I was like, yo, Mom, I did something I had no business doing. I was afraid of you finding out about it. But this lady been using this over my head. She's been holding that over my head, making my life a little more difficult than it needs to be. And I'm more concerned about that being the problem than what happens when you find out. Not to mention that I know you don't appreciate when people do stuff like this. And my mom was like, thank you for telling me. I'm not angry at you. I'm proud of you for letting me know that this happened. You understand that you shouldn't do that. Now let me tell you what she shouldn't do. She shouldn't be holding that over your head. Neither one of y'all was right, but you were more right because at least you owned up to it. She took what she did and tried to use it to keep you in line. And that's not cool. And my mom proceeded to go up there and confront that lady about that very thing. And it was a conversation being had about that didn't involve my mom giving me any whoopings or anything other than the conversation that we had. You know what I mean? But that woman was going to hold something over my head was not something my mother was going to take lightly. You will not blackmail my son type energy. And so that's why I'm telling y'all, like, a lot of times we do things we can't come back from. Some stuff you can't just run and tell nobody. Some stuff, and especially as grown-ups, you do certain things, and some of that stuff that's held over your head gonna have consequences that really not very light. And for me, the circumstances were so that whatever it was wasn't that bad. So I could kind of get away with telling mom, hey, this is what it is. This person ain't gonna hold that over my head no more. If it's gonna be a problem, let's just deal with it. But I'd be damned if they continue to control me with that leverage. And so I don't know if you have able to do that in your life, depending on what it is you had happen. But one thing's for certain is the person that's doing that to you is counting on you, being too fearful of the consequences that come with their stuff that they're holding over your head coming out. And I don't think that's smart. That's the moral of the story. I don't think that's smart. And so that's my point of view. You can't count on that. Because maybe that kid just goes back and tells their mom what it is that you're holding over their head. Now mom's at it, you. You know what I'm saying? And that's the reality of the world we're in. You know, you used to hold stuff over somebody's head, and then they find out you're a blackmailer, and they start digging in your pockets, find out what you hide. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you doing that type of skullduggery. What else are you doing? Your reputation is shot. And so that's what I tell people. Just try your best to keep your nose clean in life. Hold yourself accountable. Honesty is the best medicine. Stand on what you do. And nobody can use it against you, just like we talked about yesterday. You know, stand on what you do. Win these battles against behaviors that need to be kept in the dark. You want to win those battles so that nobody can use that over your head, as we talked about yesterday. That's your leverage in life. That's your motivation behind doing so. A lot of times it's like, well, I don't want to stay away from something I like. Because it's not good for you. Because what it's going to do is put you in a position to not have your leverage in life against somebody who may find out what you've done. You know what I mean? You do better, obviously, not doing it. You know what I mean? And that's the truth. And so, yeah, man, that's the message. That has been the message for the last 24 hours. I don't know who this is for necessarily. I'd imagine it's relevant to somebody's life on the other end of this camera. I keep putting it in my heart to say it. But, you know, your leverage in life is your discipline against certain things that otherwise you don't mind doing, so long as people don't know about it. You discipline yourself against those things, and if somebody do find out, or whatever they find out, it sure ain't going to be that for which they use over your head. And that's worth it, man. That's worth it. You know, as stressful as life is, you don't need nothing like that making your life more stressful. You know, that's really what it is. The last thing you want to do is ask people to put forth leverage against you indirectly by doing things that you have no business doing, and then furthermore being caught by those people. You do not want that. Not to mention that you can be caught. It's in general. You know what I mean? But that you be caught by the wrong type of people put you in a position to be under their thumb for the rest of your damn existence. And that is no way to live, my friends. No way to live. So let yourself be at peace. Let yourself be at peace with everything you're doing in life, man. Let yourself be at peace with everything that you ultimately choose, whether right or wrong, so that you can stand on it and the consequences of it. That would be my suggestion to everybody. Some of us don't mind doing certain things. That's your business. But don't be so afraid of those things coming out. And if you're doing things that you're afraid of coming out, then you should consider not doing those things. It's really that damn simple. Because it gets ugly when they do for you. So BDL44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.